The Wheeling Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, August 21st, 2014 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Dorban.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson, I am here. Commissioner Powers.
I'm here.
Commissioner Stylen.
Here.
Commissioner Vito.
Here.
Commissioner Zangara.
Here.
And Chairman Raffato.
Here. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening. Thank you.
Citizens' concerns and comments? We have no consent items tonight, so items for review, docket number 2014-14, NSCBA 14-26, Dunkin' Donuts, 749 North Milwaukee Avenue. 2014-14, special use site plan approval for a drive-through restaurant. NSCBA 14-26, appearance approval of a wall and freestanding signs. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2014-14, Stephen Colber, architect, on behalf of RJR Wheeling and RJR Wheeling Land property owners, is seeking special use site plan approval as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-05, mixed use and overlay districts, Chapter 19-10, use regulations, Chapter 19-12, site plan approval requirements, and associated sections in order to establish a drive-through Dunkin' Donuts restaurant at 749 North Milwaukee Avenue, which is zoned MXC, Commercial Residential Mixed Use District. Standards for a special use. A zoning special use is defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning is a use of a parcel of land that requires a review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the Village Code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for a special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting material submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the Village Board. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings?
There are a couple of items from the staff report. What I'd like to do actually is have the petitioner go through the presentation. The way these slides are ordered is from the existing conditions photos into the site plan, floor plan, and then into the signs. So if you could come forward and just give a basic overview, then I have a couple of comments and we'll open up to the commission after that.
Certainly.
Great. Will you be the only one speaking tonight?
My associate might be chiming in.
If you can both come up, raise your right hand. Both raise your right hands. Great. Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Great. And if you could individually give your names and business addresses to our recording secretary, that'd be great. Thank you. Or if you have a business card, that'd be good too. Thank you.
Do you want us to speak our name or just give it?
It'd be helpful to speak your name too.
Kareem Koja, franchisee from Dunkin' Donuts.
Great, thank you.
Stephen Colbert with Colebrook Design.
And Stephen Schmidt with Colebrook Design.
Great, thank you. The floor is yours.
Very good. As Mr. Jennings pointed out, we are looking, and Secretary, of course, we are looking at doing a drive-through at this existing location and a Dunkin' Donuts establishment on the end cap is shown on the image in front of you right now. I believe they have to see the same thing. It's on the screen here. Mm-hmm. So in the packet, you'll see that the things that we are looking to do, obviously, number one is the drive-through itself, and the site plan shows what our intentions are on this image here. Quite simply, we're pulling back the parking lot that's to the north a little bit to allow a clean and simple passage on the north side of the building to allow for the drive-through. It's pretty straightforward as to what we're doing as far as the drive-through is concerned. The changes on the building itself to support the Dunkin' franchise show, well, here, if you go back to the floor plan, please.
Hang on a second. We didn't practice this.
Okay. But we'll do just fine. The floor plan you see here is as typical as it gets for a Dunkin' of this size. Small, there's obviously, as you can see, a seating area, and the front and back of house that supports this establishment. It's not going to be a Dunkin' Baskin, it's just a Dunkin' Donuts. If you have been to one recently, you'll see that the new upgrades that the franchise has taken on over the last couple of years, it's more of a coffee shop feel. The Dunkin' of old is the Dunkin' of the past. It's soft seating, warm colors, a more rich interior. So it's a whole new look that Dunkin' has embraced over the last couple of years. The fresh brew concept is what they call it. And then you've been seeing more and more of them recently being installed. And that's exactly what we're doing here. This fresh brew, actually we're looking at the dark roast, I believe, at this location, which is one of their higher end looks. It's a very sharp look for the interior itself. And then on the exterior,
Too far.
you'll see here, these are some images that we put together. We are putting on the standard and the typical Dunkin' monolith with the gradient hardy board siding. Again, you'll see this everywhere. This is a nice, clean, and simple look. It's nothing overpowering. It's something that attaches well to the building, particularly in an end cap use like this. We're building out, as you can see on the image here, and on the floor plan previously, a small portion for the drive-through window as is necessary, cladding that with the hardy board material, with the painted colors. We brought some samples here to pass out of the actual hardy board material with the colors on them. And then on the front, just turning the corner a little bit to add a little accent to the corner of the building where the Dunkin's is going to be, and providing the orange awnings, which is the typical look. Most Dunkin's, the Dunkin' corporate like to have a ton of orange, and we try to scale it back because it's never really, not a lot of people don't like the orange. So we're just going with just the simple orange awning look. The two photographs that we photoshopped that you can see show the full extent of the building rather than just the proposed elevations, which kind of just clip, straight on views. And you can see in the whole view of the building, particularly the lower image, there's a lot of color on the building. The far right, which would be the south face of this particular building, there's different color awnings on that side as well, the reds and different colors as it turns around. So we feel this is not out of character for what's already happening there. And then the monolith construction at the corner nails down the design element that we feel will signify and show what is the standard Dunkin' look we've been using nationwide. Other than that, the changes are minor. We're just putting in the drive-through window itself. We're not changing anything of the actual colors of the building as it stands. That's staying the same. The masonry material is staying the same. It's just these applied elements that we're adding as decorative elements on the corner and the drive-through for the exteriors, really the bulk of our exterior project. We're also providing, which the site plan showed, a small area out in front, and we're discussing the size of it still with Andrew and the landlord, who's out of California, some open cafe seating out there, some tables and chairs that'll be in front of the store itself. And Andrew, if you'll go back a couple, you could see one forward. There we go. You can see we're showing 2 tables right now, but we're in talks of taking up another parking spot to make that a little bit larger, so a couple more tables can happen over there. But we have to confirm parking and all, we make sure we comply with all that. But we'd like to provide more seating if we could. And that basically is the bulk of what we're trying to do for the Dunkin' installation.
How about a description of your signs, too?
Certainly, the signs themselves are all channel letter signs. I know the one image in the packet says cloud sign, but that was, we should be more clear, that was just for dimension purposes only. So on the front of the building, it's a channel sign. On the side is a channel sign, and then you see that little oval button that just says drive-through, just a small oval button that goes on both sides of the building, and you see that that's in the packet that you have as well. The sign on the drive-through side, the image in the cut sheet says cloud sign, but it's really just for dimensional purposes. They'll all be channel signs to stay in tune with everything that's on the building. One of the things that was brought to our attention on the side was that the sign was a little bit too large, and I think it was just the interpretation of the ordinance. We read that on the side like that, we're allowed 30 square feet. If there's no windows, we didn't count the drive-through, pass-through as an actual window into the space. With windows, it goes down to 2%, and then we're a little bit over. So we'd have to confirm the interpretation of that so that if we need to reduce or adjust, consider that accordingly. But it's all channel signs.
Is there anything else?
I believe that's all of it, and of course, we're here to answer any questions, and as Mr. Koja, the franchisee, and for operations, it's going to be his store, so he'll be able to answer all those.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? Nope. Okay, we'll go to the commission members. I'm going to start with Commissioner Powers.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. A couple questions regarding the patio area. If you do get the extra space, will you be putting any kind of a railing around the patio area, such as like where the curb cuts, and then like if you do get another take another spot away, like will you enclose that area with a metal railing or anything?
One of the images you see right now in front of you is a project we recently did in North Aurora, which a little bit larger in terms of the application of that monolith on the front, but it's basically the exact same thing we're looking at doing here in a store that just opened successfully, as a matter of fact. And there's a railing that we inherited there. In all honesty, that railing was there, but something similar is what we would do in this location.
Would you have any room for landscaping in there, like you're showing here? I'm not sure you would.
If you look at what's here, the small bit of landscaping, it's just coming out to meet the edge of the existing parking lane. So similar to what's there, we have the same depth here.
Okay.
So we would love to. The answer is yes. We would love to. After working with the village, make sure our parking counts, we're not hurting parking counts by losing a spot.
Right.
We would love to do something like this.
Okay. Another question I have is is the crosswalk from the drive-through lane into the parking lot that you're pushing back? An idea I had is because that's like a blind. It's like a blind crosswalk. It's going to be hard to see if you got cars coming through. An idea I had is I've seen places where they've had a circular mirror globe shape that you could the cars can see if there's any pedestrians and vice versa. Would that be any kind of idea you could take into consideration, or so the cars can see the pedestrians and likewise, is that could that be brought in any way?
Yeah. We would certainly consider that, but again, if you would refer to the North Aurora photo, you see the railing that kind of pushes, I know what our drawing shows, but the railing that pushes the crosswalk away from the corner of the building. Very similar to that, what you see here, where it pushes it 4 to 5 feet away from the building, so you're not coming right off the corner, you're 5 feet away from the corner before you actually hit the drive of the drive-through lane. So there's a little bit more, and that's actually one of the recommendations that we got from the city as well, to the village to provide something like that. But if it's in fact, a small device such as a mirror or something like that, that would alleviate some concerns, I don't see that being a huge issue.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at the site plan, and to me, it looks like the sidewalk's butted up right next to the building, and it doesn't look like the crosswalk is away from the building at all.
You're correct. On that version, we've updated the drawing since. That sidewalk you see there is almost, at that crosswalk as drawn, that's almost 7 feet wide. So it would be more of a 4 to 5 feet and pull that away from the building,
okay,
so that it's not directly on the corner. That's the final intent after reviewing comments from the city.
Okay, and I assume that the orange awnings, you had to go to the landlord and ask him if that was acceptable?
Yes, and the landlord's already seen our renditions, and we've gone back and forth with them to get to a version that, at least as far as leasee and leaseor, that they're on the same page.
Okay. And there's not going to be any kind of a rear entrance in this building, right?
No.
Okay. Because I had a question for staff. Andrew, we had, I think Subway's going to have a rear entrance in it, correct?
It has both stores have a rear door. Subway has a public entrance from the rear, whereas this is a kitchen area. It's a service door only.
Okay, and then the parking lot that's in the rear of the building, does that go all the way out? I mean, I haven't been there in a while. Does that go all the way out to Subway too? Or does it stop like at Subway's door? Just curious.
The parking area directly behind this row of stores goes from this end unit, and it ends, the part against the building ends where the trash enclosure starts, which is just next to Subway.
Okay.
So there are no stalls up against the building, but there are stalls across from it. So the L-shaped building, I probably could show you this on the site plan instead. L-shaped building, you can see here where I'm pointing. The subject unit ends around here, and Subway's roughly here. And then the postnet opens up toward the trash enclosure area. And so there's some parking in that general area.
Okay. Last question, the hardy board siding, I see you're using that. And I guess the question I have is typically with that type of siding, how much maintenance is there maintaining, if it's a painted siding, how much of a beating can that take before it's like has to be redone?
Surprisingly, it lasts, with proper installation and, proper painting methods, it lasts a good long time. You're looking at, 5 to 7 years before you have to touch it up if it's done right. So it's pretty durable. And it's something that's dictated from the Duncan corporate guys. They do all kinds of R&D before it even makes it down to us that this is the product we want to use. So they've done a lot of research on the longevity of the project itself.
Okay, I have nothing further right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Stalin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the north side parking lot, the space that's immediately to the left has, at least on our plan, had a rounded parking area that I don't think is going to be suitable for getting an automobile in there.
That would be this stall here?
Right. And I was wondering, there are some other landscape type islands out in that area. I was wondering if, as long as that parking spot can't be used, if it could be converted into some kind of landscape island, maybe put a tree or
Absolutely. As a matter of
something
fact,
out there that,
initial conversations with the staff, we have made the adjustments so that will be a landscaped island.
excellent, thank you. I do agree that expanding the patio, I think, would be an excellent idea.
So do we.
You'd lose another parking spot, but I think the benefit to you and just the image that you're trying to create would be an immense benefit. I like the railing concept that you showed from that other store, and I think that extension that you have away from the building will mitigate some of the closeness of the drive-through lane. So
Particularly the new concept that Dunkin' is. It's more of a coffee shop. That's what we've argued in many cases, that it is a coffee shop, and that longer stays, people staying there. The expanded seating just fits into that model.
So, I'd like to see that change, on the plan as well. One thing that bothers me a little bit is, again, going back to that north side parking lot, in order to squeeze your drive-through lane in, you've gotten rid of, I think, the sidewalk that's there today is now going to be the drive-through lane,
That is correct,
right?
yes.
Would it be possible to put a sidewalk on the front edge of that parking lot to the north so that people can walk, from one side? Because you can't get in the back door, so.
Absolutely, certainly. And one of the things that we'll have to confer with the landlord because as you can imagine, it's a big lot there, and they have some development ideas for that lot, and we want to make sure that we're not inhibiting that in any fashion. But it certainly can be done.
And it's hard to work with dimensions on a plan that we could expand, but it appears that there's enough drive space to squeeze in a sidewalk there without infringing any of the aisle widths.
We also entertained a landscape buffer as well, in further conversations. So a sidewalk and landscape buffer would be nice, but again, we have to confer with the landlord.
Yeah, I think that'd be real nice. And the other thing, there are some lights on the building today that light up the front and the sidewalk, and I didn't see any indication of lights on your plan today. You're planning on keeping those lights where they are?
Andrew, if you could go back to our elevations. You could see faintly that we've relocated them on that middle drawing where to kind of work around that monolith element, so it architecturally looks right.
How about on the front?
On the front itself, the only thing that we're taking off, the one light that's on the corner column, but the next one over is staying.
I think, again, that's going to be in the immediate proximity of your seating area, and what are your hours of operation going to be going at night during the dusk time?
4 to 11.
4 to 11 is what we initially anticipated.
So, you'd be accommodating people at the hotel that might want to come and get something to eat, or...
But also...
So...
We would, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Your store, man.
24 hours is what's preferred, just because of the location where it's at, in terms of having no residential near it, and in terms of being proximity to a hotel. If someone wants to get up at 2 in the morning and go down for a coffee instead of a beer, they have an option now. I don't think they can serve beer after 2, I'm sorry. But they have something to drink after 2 a.m., so I would prefer 24 hours here. And we can light it up as much as you want it lit up.
Yeah, I just think, if somebody wants to go outside, sit down at dusk or midnight, whatever, and probably should have some lighting out there to accommodate them. And I notice you're getting rid of a waste receptacle that was there. You will put...
Yes, something that matches the decor.
Right.
And exterior lighting is something that we will address.
Okay, and then I do have a question about your hardy board. We have some apprehensions about hardy board. It comes in, now it depends if you're talking about the brand hardy board or some other look-alike, but it comes in various thicknesses. Mm-hmm. Some are real thin, and then some take, 5 people to lift up a small sheet. So could you just let me know what the thickness of the material
Certainly,
is?
it's more of the regular siding depth. No one will get any head trauma if this fell off the building. But you could, as a matter of fact, here. So we're going to walk away from one.
So it's about a 1/4 inch, I guess.
Yeah, this is a typical part with that kind of grain feel to it.
Can I pass it?
We've got some of the other colors that are typical to that gradient model.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I think that answers all my questions for now. Thank you. Tell us about it first, and then...
Commissioner Zangara.
Thank you. A couple of my questions were answered, but I do have a couple regarding this drive-through and the little, addition you're putting on the corner there, especially with the drive-through coming right up next to the building. Is there any thought, and I can't remember, I think it's the Dunkin' Donuts over by the gas station over here, putting in some bollards so people don't the cars to come through the drive-through aren't going to clip
Well,
those corners?
Yeah, part of the final development will have, there's a bollard that's right at the drive-through window itself.
Okay.
For where we're really bumping out. The one that's on the corner, there's curbing, it's far, the one on the corner doesn't come out as far as the drive-through
Okay.
window. That's only 6 inches or so, just to make the depth, of that monolith stand out. But the drive-through window will have a bollard right at the leading edge of that.
Okay, and then,
And it's a bollard that's, it's a colored bollard,
Okay.
that matches the scheme itself.
and one thing that I get upset about a lot is, the orange canopies, where, has there ever been a thought to put a canopy over the drive-through window? So when you roll on your window, if it's raining, is there any thought?
Well, you know what, we have, this is actually an alternate design where we construct a canopy, which very well could happen here, where there's a built canopy with lighting that goes over the monolith itself. But the thing is, when we do those, we like that to be the orange color as well. And we can, if need be, we can update these drawings to show that option for.
It's just something I prefer because obviously you drive through, you open a window.
It's what we did at North Aurora. That's on.
We do it in every store. I don't want to get rained on, I don't want you to get rained on. It's not fun.
Right.
You open a window and all yeah, no, we'll fix that.
And then the drive-through, actually, I saw some of your signage that kind of has directions. When they leave, can they go left or right, or is it going to be mainly trying to get them to go so they're not driving in front of all the storefronts again? Just directional for traffic purposes.
We haven't shown a direction for them to go.
Okay.
But if it's something that this board feels should be pushed in a single direction, we have no issues with which way they exit the space.
Okay, and then my last thing that I really want to bring up was where your crosswalk is. There's that, I guess, grass area, and this might be something for the whole development of early morning. You do have apartments across the street. Is there any putting a bike rack? Has that been, I know there's one for the center, right? Correct?
I'm trying to think of where the closest one is. The development is accessible. There's a pedestrian crossing into a bikeable street at Wolf and Milwaukee. And then the Des Plaines River Trail is behind this property, and you can actually access this property from the trail. So there would be a certain logic to it. I don't know where the closest one is here, but it's
I believe it's,
There's a small bike rack, see where that gray car is in front of Spears?
Yeah.
There's a small bike rack right there. I've actually put my bike on it before.
Yeah, but the risk you run is that if you install a railing, that'll end up being your bike rack if there isn't one relatively close by. So that's something that we can certainly work with them to try to figure out a spot that's not in the middle of a walkway.
It's something we can bring up with the landlord.
Okay.
There is that one area there that is conducive to that.
Okay, that's all I had.
Commissioner Vito.
Thanks. Let me first apologize for hacking up a lung during your presentation. I was having coughing issues over here, and I apologize
I've
for
had worse hacked up during my presentation.
interrupting you. Yeah, I echo a concern that Commissioner Zangara had with involving the traffic flow, because that parking lot gets pretty crowded now, especially with Spears there, and to have some of the traffic go back towards the restaurants just might be a little dangerous if you got hopefully a thriving business, especially in the mornings.
So here's what my comment on that would be. The traffic light is where Spears is.
Right.
And our busiest peak hours are 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. I don't even think any of those shops are open.
Okay.
That whole lot's wide open, empty during our peak hours. So most likely, if I'm a customer, I want to hit the traffic light. And to hit the traffic light, my first inclination is to get out of the drive-thru and make a left. Subway's not open. Well, they try to be open for breakfast, but it doesn't matter. Spears is definitely not open. And I don't think Postnut's open that early. So the lot's empty. And the only customers that are going to be in that lot are Dunkin' Donuts customers. I mean, my employees won't be in the front. So that's why I feel to force somebody to go right, it doesn't make any sense at that early in the morning because the lot's empty.
That's a good point.
And majority of our business, and we have numbers to prove this, 80% of our business gets done before 10 a.m. And the few cars that you have after 10 a.m., it's 1 or 2 or 3, So it's not that big of a traffic deal. That's my opinion.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Another issue I had basically on the hours again is, you said that you wanted a 24-hour
Yeah, it's more
operation.
it's more of a convenience for the people that live around there and the shoppers.
Was it denied? I mean, why did you submit it for the hours that you submitted if you wanted 24 hours?
I think my architect made a mistake.
Oh, okay.
We did make a mistake because he was on vacation.
All right, fair enough. Okay.
I try to get every store open 24 hours.
Okay, so
even though we do no business, usually between 12 and 4, but there's always someone in the store anyways, getting ready for the morning, so it's nice to have it open. And I do feel that the patrons of Weston will have something to do. I've talked to the manager of Weston quite a bit. She's very excited to have us. There are always people looking to late night coffee, and she's very excited to have us.
Okay. Thanks. That's all I have for you guys.
Commissioner Dorban.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. Basically, I think these are for staff. You mentioned that there's an updated drawing. Do we have that, or is that?
We have a drawing that is slightly updated from this. The features that the petitioners referred to are not on that drawing at this point. We had received a photograph, which we have in this presentation.
So can we go ahead and prove this even though we don't have it in front of us?
Well, we can discuss with get the consensus of the commission on how to handle. We've got a representation tonight of several modifications, and we can discuss how to proceed.
And the other question was regarding the canopy over the drive-through. Do we have to worry about the sprinkler code?
You do at a certain depth. It's a sprinklered building, which means that a covering that's attached to it is going to need to be sprinklered at a certain depth. I believe that is 5 feet off of the 5 feet off of the building, and we can confirm that.
Our canopy is 4'11".
I just thought I'd bring it up so you're aware of it.
Thank you very much.
I think the rest of my questions have been asked. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Well, we already know that there's different drawings coming, but I just want to point out that on this particular one, that build-out is not shown at all, either on the corner or at the drive-through.
Right.
That's just the existing straight wall.
The bump? Yep.
Yeah, the 2 bumps.
Oh, on the site plan, yes, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. So to get a good idea of it, I mean, that should be updated too. You guys were talking about how cars would leave. How are you going to get them to get there?
This is, I can interject real quick on this. This is one of the items that the staff have been looking at on this site plan is based on the operation of the other recently opened Dunkin', the time that it takes a person to order seems to be greater than the time that it takes the store to prepare the orders. So the backup that we've observed is typically at the menu board. So what we would suggest on something like this is to try to direct people to one entry point. This menu board is at the T. So our suggestion on this would be to force and use signage to force people around. We just sketched out something kind of crudely here, but to try to get people to come. Since you have a right in, the way the store, if you look at Milwaukee Avenue, it's very possible that people driving north on Milwaukee will see this store and take the right in and come from this direction. They'll pass by and see the convenient turn, which means that you'll have people who know it's here or took the left turn coming at the people who passed it and took the right turn. So what we're suggesting is add one more directional sign to point people into this. This lot essentially functions as an employee parking lot anyway. We were suggesting that because of the the morning peak, restrict it to employee parking. Be difficult to back out of those spots at the morning. So something that the petitioner can certainly talk to the landlord about, but I think there's 9, 10 or so spots certainly could be restricted to the employees of these handful of restaurants.
But even before that point, when they're coming in the main drive towards the west end, how are they going to know that they have to go to the second driveway? You know what I mean? 'Cause you don't want them to go down in front of the stores, because otherwise they're going to end up not being able to get to the drive-through until they get all the way down by Twin Peaks
When you come in
find
from
the way out.
When you come in from the west end's main drive, you'll be here roughly. The point of entry would be here. The hotel is roughly here, so you'd come in and it would be to your left. And they could certainly direct, but I think this sign, this drive-through sign will be visible from this point.
And if need be, an additional directional, let's say Dunkin' straight ahead, so they don't drive in that first drive.
Right, that's what I was.
And it's something to talk to the landlord about as well. That's a lot of signage, but obviously we want the traffic flow to work so that it's not, we don't create any undue congestion.
Because the southbound traffic's going to see your store and go, okay, I'm going to go in by the west end here, and they're going to try and go around to the front of the store if they don't see that drive-through direction.
Certainly, if it's the committee's recommendation, an extra directional sign helps everybody out.
Yeah, I have no problem putting additional directional signs.
You'd have to speak with the landlord about this. The property that this particular landlord controls is here. So the directional sign that you're talking about in this case would be
On his property.
on the left side. It could still get, the motorists who are coming in from Milwaukee could still see it, but you'd have to speak with him about how he'd want to arrange that. I'm not sure what's in this location off the top of my head.
So one thing with our customers, once they figure out how to get to us, they're very loyal, and they become, 8 days a week type customers that know their routine, their patterns. It's the initial, I think, first 6 months or first year that a store is built, that's when people are learning.
Okay.
But after that, they're loyal. It's the same customers we see.
Addicted.
Yeah, I didn't want to use that word, but yeah.
Don't ask what's in the coffee.
Andrew, were you thinking of relocating the order board closer to the pay window or whatever?
What I was suggesting is direct the customers to enter this way, so that the menu board right now, where it's located, is at a T, and not suggesting that they change the menu board location, but just direct the traffic to enter it from the same direction. So you'd be approaching the menu board. This otherwise becomes a point of conflict where two cars are equally, they're going to both feel like they have the right. So what we want to do is try to avoid that.
Based upon what you said, though, that once you order, getting through the line is pretty easy, that stacking will occur up to the menu board.
Right.
So we're hoping that stacking will only be in one direction coming out and then proceeding south. We could put some lines on the pavement indicating that that's the stacking lane. But how do we stop people coming in that are making that trip around the north and coming down and not cutting in that first little jog over
That's kind of what
to hit that T where now you're going to cause a problem?
we were suggesting directional signage here at that point, the point where they would make that turn. You'd have a sign similar to the sign we were just discussing at the south end of the building. You'd have one at the north end, pointing them to where the drive-through entrance is. So the idea here is that this sign would point them to this drive.
I think that's very important, and I don't know, I think we have to put some good detail on that sign not to go down that, what appears to be the shortest path, right?
Right, I think what you see when there are, it's not uncommon for a drive-through to have two possible entries, one of which is the official. It's not uncommon to see a painted curve like this on the ground. And I think that in this case, that's probably a good idea to avoid the conflict. The issue is that if you did have that conflict point here, it's possible to back up toward this drive, and I think that's what we want to avoid, is keep this main drive clear of any backup.
Yeah, I agree that, the sign should be really explicit to not turn, I guess would be right.
How big of a sign could we get?
You can,
Have to ask Andrew.
Commissioner Johnson, would you like to continue?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, did I interrupt?
Let's see, where was I? Handicap parking. Do we need to have some identified right by this store?
The development was designed with handicap parking, which I believe met the code. You have the handicap parking for the unbuilt building, which is located here and here. The handicap parking for this building is located here at the ramp. I don't think there's a code requirement to locate one at this end. That is not to say that they could not place another. It does require a depressed curb, and it takes up a wider area. It's possible while they're doing curb work to do that, but I don't know that it would actually be required by the accessibility code.
I would highly recommend it.
At least one.
At least one somewhere in that area.
So there's one in front of Spears right now?
There's one here in front of Spears, and then this side of Spears has, I believe, two. I'm not sure if this is accurate. They may have just taken one of these and moved it over here. And then these are accurately shown, that the building is not constructed.
So they're not really used for handicap parking.
Unlikely.
Right, so why can't we move one there?
You can certainly move one there.
Okay.
When I first saw this, I wasn't thrilled with the monolith and changing the front facade of the building from what it is, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. Still not crazy about the orange canopies. I think that's it. Everything else was covered. Thank you.
Great. Back to, Commissioner Steinle was talking about the hardy board and the thickness. And I know we've had those discussions before, and the 1/4 inch is a standard thickness, but it could go up to a 1/2 inch. I think some of it can go back to a 1/2 inch. And I think what we have found is that, granted, the installation is very important in this, but also some of the thickness makes a difference in how, and some of the issues that we've had with the hardy board or the cementitious board is the distance from the concrete in the bottom. So do you know how that is built, and can you go to a thicker hardy board?
We can go to a thicker hardy board, certainly, and we usually provide 4 to 6 inches of a base below the hardy board, so the hardy board's not right at the concrete sidewalk or pad, whatever's down there. So we'd like to elevate it off, and we haven't detailed how that's going to be done yet, but our detail is normally to keep it off the ground.
Okay, and because we do have a lot of snow here, and if it's not cleaned up properly, that's some of the first things that we've seen in some of the other buildings that we've had that causes some of the problem is the stuff on the bottom. Stuff on the top is normally okay, but it's the things closer to the ground that are an issue. And I also think a thicker hardy board would also be better too.
We can certainly explore.
Okay.
It's not like some of the buildings we've done that are completely clad, and then you're talking about a big expense. These are small areas that,
Right.
to entertain a thicker material would not be
And then,
not detrimental.
expanding more on what Commissioner Steinle said about the stacking. Andrew, if you can go to that, where you had the lines here. What is the stacking here? Are we going to have a concern, from 9, you said the busiest times are from what, 8 to, what? 7 to 9? With the stacking, people trying to park here, and do we think it might come out? If this is the normal stacking, will it come out into that main street in front of the Westin?
We've done, obviously several of these, and the consensus is overall stacking for the operation that Mr. Koja runs, where wait time is roughly 80 to 90 seconds. They have, every study we've had done has recommended no more, that 7 cars total from window back is the most we've ever seen, even in some of the busiest times, maybe occasionally 1 or 2 more.
I think what we've observed at the other location is the car that's ordering. You have these are not identical locations. You have a traffic pattern on Dundee Road, which is slightly different. You do have in that location, you have gaps in traffic that produce the second and third car behind the menu board arrive at the exact same time. This location will not have that, but I think the issue that you're going to see here is still the same in terms of the menu board being the determining factor. It's how long it takes the customer to order, not how long it takes to get from the menu board out. So based on that, what we saw at the Dundee store, I believe is maybe the 4th car. There were frequently times where there was a 4th car past the menu board, and based on that, they clearly meet the code required stacking of 6, but the concern is more operationally. What do we need to make this function? And I think that having a 4th car, in this case, you have a space for a 4th car easily before you conflict with the driveway that we're concerned about, provided that they keep going in the same direction. It looks like there's ample space in this lot. The lot that we're talking about, there's ample space to queue that 4th car past the menu board.
And Commissioner, we'll be forcing employees to park back there. So once they come in at 5 or 5:30, they're not leaving till at least noon.
Well, there are other retailers there too that have to get in too, so. I understand, I know you think Dunkin' Donuts is all of it, but it's not. So you have other employees coming in there for other stores that have to get in there too.
Sure.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm concerned with. Granted, I know your folks are going to be there early and, right, exactly, right.
And certainly the one upside, as presented, is at the peak hours, where the real business is before most of the stores even open. So
Sure.
What's happening in that back lot is going to be basically just in Dunkin' employees and probably Bear at the busiest times of store operation.
I mean, I don't see us lining up after 9 a.m.
Good. All right, great. Let's see, the northeast corner, where Commissioner Steinle pointed out that could be a planting area. Yeah, right there. Somewhere in there, in the current parking area, there is a light standard there. Is that going to stay there?
We'll have to verify that.
I think that's what that little line is up on the top there.
Is that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
The light that we're looking at it's in this area. I think perhaps that line got transferred over from, if you look at an aerial photo of the site, that's about the angle that light appears at. So it's possible that this is what we're looking at, is where that light is.
And then I believe there's a curb there that runs north. Is that going to be, what's going to happen with that?
There is a curb that runs north, and I think that the asphalt at some point becomes flush with it.
Yeah, it does. It does. So we'll be modifying that curb to get the turn for our drive-through. But that platform to the north is actually a little bit higher. That pad's higher than what's around that. So we have to build that curb and then grade our and we'll have final engineering plans, of course, with our final drawing, but where the east and west ends of this drive-through have to be graded down, and then it's brought up to a crown in the center.
Okay. Then going to the front or the west side of the building, walking across the drive-through, there is a sidewalk. This picture here that you have up doesn't accurately depict what is there now.
That is correct. We were just showing the sidewalk continuing, but after just talking with staff and making the adjustment, similar to what you saw in that one photograph, as this drawing here, the east edge of that sidewalk would move west, so that we would be off the corner of the building.
Okay, so you're going to continue the sidewalk. And where does it go into the, right now, I believe the sidewalk goes into this parking lot, so you're going to continue the sidewalk into that parking area there?
Yes, that's the plan, is to continue the sidewalk to the parking.
And then you're not doing anything with that grassy area there to the north of the, right there. You're not doing anything with any of that?
No, as it stands now, again, the landlord has mentioned to us future development, and we didn't want to
Right, sure,
move
understood.
into that and take that.
Okay, all right, great, all right.
Get all these extra spaces here.
Are there any questions on the signs that they want to construct and put up? No? Okay. And before I ask for questions again, I think that I know there are a number of items that aren't on these plans, and I personally wouldn't feel comfortable sending these to the village board without us seeing the plans. So I would like to have this come back, but before we do that, though, I heard a couple of things that we need detailed on the plans. Okay. The outside seating area, I'd like to have more plans around that if we're taking out this parking spot. Okay. I would like, to Commissioner Styland's point, when we're talking about directional signs, where are they located on this site plan? Okay. We talked about a buffer between the drive-through and the northern empty lot. I'd like to see that detailed on the plan. The awning and the build-out for the drive-through is not on the plan. I'd like to see that. Bike racks. And then Commissioner Johnson brought up at least some handicap parking on that side. I think we have right now some unused handicap parking that we can put in front there that would be beneficial for that whole area. Commissioner Powers brought up a mirror or something on the corner there. I thought about that also. Any consensus on that? Should we add that? Or do we have enough of a buffer if we're going to put a railing there that the drivers could see?
I think if you're going to put a 4-foot railing, I'd put a sign on the railing saying, watch for traffic to the right or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be...
Okay. And possibly a yield sign
Or a stop sign.
as the cars are coming out, a stop sign.
Watch for pedestrians.
Right, yeah, watch for pedestrians.
Or you could even make sure the pavement is marked
Right.
to indicate
Well, that would be for sure.
And that's
yeah.
the other thing, pavement markings. You know, we see this here, you know, let's get that detailed. And also, are we talking about a stacking lane in the back so it's identified?
I'd like Paul to go down and show Andrew and you a little drawing that he's done here that gets rid of that T situation, adds some more parking, and I think that might be
We have an artist.
an
Come on down. Show it to Andrew, bring it down.
While we're waiting,
Yes.
that one parking spot with the curved curb, if we're directing people around the other way, you don't need that radius anymore, do you?
I'm sorry, which,
Paul's recommending that it be filled in completely, so.
Oh, okay, then we're on the same page.
I mean, all the way across to the other thing, and then you can extend that parking.
The drawing indicates, basically, instead of having this cut here, pulling it this direction so that the driveway doesn't go past any parking stall. Certainly, you need to speak with the landlord about that one.
Yes.
So the curb, instead of cutting it here, comes all the way back, so that this row of parking extends that way, and then this parking lot is separate and distinct. As far as, some of the issues that we would need to check on for that would be the access to whatever services are back there. I'm not sure how much of that paved area. I think right now the garbage truck's back into this as it is, so it probably wouldn't affect them.
Fire department might have something to say too.
Fire department might have something to say about it, but that's certainly something we could look at.
Good thought. When we bring that down, Andrew will show it to you.
What I was saying is if they don't go this far, if we are directing people to come from the south and turn left into the drive-through, then that curved parking spot wouldn't need to be curved anymore.
Right, yeah.
We just square it off. But I like that idea better.
And then the last thing that I heard was you're looking for, you want to be open for 24 hours. Let's change this so it reads 24 hours instead of 4 to 11. I know you have a letter here stating, it states 4 to 11. Let's update that. So there are a number of things that I think we all as a plan commission would like to see.
And the size of the sign on the
Right, and the size, that's right.
North side.
There was a potential sign reduction to have that updated to ensure that the signage correct, that we're looking at, that we're sending to the village board.
Out of the various things that we touched on, there was one other staff note that we had. The property, if you look at this, going the wrong direction, sorry. The site plan, this application, you notice in the report, covers two parcels within this development. The item here that we're concerned about, and speaking with the village attorney about this, is that the drive-through location is a leased area on a adjacent parcel. And what we would suggest is that the petitioner and landlord work together to provide an easement document that can be recorded to memorialize the location of the drive-through and make sure that there is a defined area that runs with this particular building on the adjacent parcel. And the timing of that, I think, in speaking with the attorney, we're flexible on, but prior to the final certificate of occupancy, we'd be looking to have an easement document available.
All right, great.
Jim, one thing I'd like to see on the forthcoming plan changes, could you draw in where the stacking lane is going to be? Could you put in some cars that are representative in size so we can see how many cars can be stacked? In that area? Because how many cars do you think will wait in line to get coffee in the morning.
As I said before, what we've seen and with the studies that have been done, from window to the very end, 7 is the max at the very peak times.
So if you have, normally we'd like to see 5 cars between, our standard, Dunkin' Donuts standard is 5 cars between window and menu board. I don't even think we meet our standard here. We've got 5? I don't know. Okay. We'll show how many cars. I think when we draw this out, we might only get 4. So, but after, it's what's concerning to, I think, Andrew, is what's after the menu board. It's usually 3 to 4 cars during that peak hours of 7 to 9.
Boy, I sure hope you have a lot more than that.
We go really fast. You won't, I won't get into the details, but we have so many speed contests inside with the employees because our business is driven by speed. Unlike other coffee shops where it's more drama, we cut the drama and we want to get you out quickly.
Okay, but I would like to see how much room you have, and if you only need 5, I hope you have room for 8 or 10, because I think you're in a very nice spot, so.
Yeah, we can certainly update our plan and show clearly some car definition. I like to show like the minis, the little Mini Coopers. Yeah. You get 72 stacked.
No.
At this point, we have, let me just read off, I jotted down, we have a decision sheet that we can print for you and you can take with you.
Very good.
It has the conditions of approval that were suggested in the staff report, as well in this case, it has those conditions and then also has items that we would expect to see on a revised plan. And right now, I'll just read off the conditions of approval first. So far, the conditions of approval were to add a railing similar to the railing at the other end of the shopping center to define the patio area and separate the crosswalk from the edge of the building. Add a stop sign or watch for pedestrians at the drive-through exit. Require an easement for the drive-through lane area, which is partially on the adjacent property prior to final certificate of occupancy. Dedicate the rear parking area as employee parking only, or sign the rear parking area as employee parking area only. Add an additional directional sign or signs entering the drive-through area, and adding pavement markings in the drive-through queue. Then on top of that, during the discussion, we added updates to the plan, including the bike rack, a tree by the northeast corner, tree or landscape island, by the northeast corner, canopy over the drive-through, update the site plan to show the projection of the monoliths, handicap parking locations, the size and configuration of the patio, the directional signs noting 24-hour operation, and I had the note of Explorer sidewalk adjacent to the drive-through.
The movement of the sidewalk that was there to the other side where the...
On the north edge of it.
And I also heard possibly a landscape buffer in that area. That's what I had heard.
Yes, and we have to confirm with the landlord. We
Right.
touched on that. We'll confirm with them.
And Andrew, I know you mentioned directional signs, but I think on the plan it would be helpful to see where they're located. And I would like you to also investigate the thickness of the hardy board, going to a 1/2-inch hardy board. And then also, it was mentioned that one of the signs had to be reduced because of, I think it was on the Northern Exposure, not the movie, not the TV show, but the side of the building. It had to be reduced, make sure that might have to be reduced.
Yeah, we can double check that with you.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We read it a different way, but we can work with Andrew to make sure that we comply.
Right. Just real quick before we wrap things up, on the cement board thickness, I think the issue that we're trying to determine is just correct me, we're looking at...
I will.
We're looking at the appropriate thickness for this application. Is that what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
and, well, in discussions with some contractors, we heard that, along with installation, if you have a hardy board, a thicker board, it could last longer and stand up to the elements better around here than the 1/4 inch.
I think, when you investigate this, I think that's what we're getting at, is the
Yes.
thickness. In this particular usage, you have an exterior wall that will remain behind this, is that correct?
Well, absolutely. There's a whole construction that happens
So just-
behind.
I think, given how this is going to be installed, check
That's true.
the,
That's true.
Yeah, I understand the commissioner's concern.
Right.
The chairman's concerns completely, so.
Okay, good. So I would like to, any other
Chairman?
questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Powers.
It was also brought up, if you're going to show the additional tables for the patio area, you'll show the removal of that parking spot. And you also mentioned some type of landscaping in the patio area, so I would hope to see that on a plan also. And Commissioner Stylen mentioned lighting for the patio area. I don't know if you're going to investigate that, but an idea for that, maybe you can put some kind of lighting in that landscaping area by the patio, so maybe that lights it up a little bit for you. I don't know.
Certainly some sort of bollard lighting might be a solution, but we need to.
That'd be
look into
great,
it.
yep.
Yeah, there's plenty of options that we'll explore, and we'll, again, work with the landlord as to what's acceptable to the building
That's it.
itself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, just one quick question. Are you sharing trash services with the rest of the tenants? How does that work? Good question.
Quite frankly, we haven't gotten that far yet,
Okay, well, that's
but
going to
I
be
will look
important.
we'll look into it.
Yeah, because if you have to come up with your own trash pickup and
Like an
place
enclosed.
to put a dumpster, that's going to change things too.
the trash enclosure behind this, this building was not likely designed to accommodate this many restaurants, so that is a good question. We'll have to look at that with you.
Okay. And normally in situations where, I've been in situations like this in the past, the landlord just takes over the trash and then divvies up, in his CAM charges. That's what normally
Right.
happens. Sometimes we do it, sometimes the landlord takes over, and whatever works, works.
I just wanted to confirm that that's how it's going to work, and as Andrew pointed out, it wasn't designed for 3 restaurants.
I'm not saying that it cannot
Right,
accommodate it.
right. I
I'm just saying
understand.
it probably wasn't the original projection.
But
So
the
we-
original, and then added on to that, if you have to have your own receptacles, we normally want them enclosed, and they just can't be in back. Okay, good. So, Mr. Jennings, we have a meeting next week. We can continue that to next week, but we normally would need all of the work done by tomorrow. So that'd be a little bit tough.
What I think, first of all, do you have an idea, based on your past discussions with the landlord, do you have any idea how long it would take you to run, first of all, produce drawings, and then second of all, run some of these things by the landlord, the ones that you would need landlord approval on?
For us, the time issue would be getting the landlord to sign off on these things.
Okay.
We've already, as you know, we've already started moving forward with some of these adjustments on drawings, and these, frankly, what's asked for us tonight is not major, revisions to drawings. So we can turn those around quickly, but we got to confer with the landlord.
Now, if you were able to produce the drawings, and the commission would accept drawings by, I would say Monday, if we could distribute them either at the end of the day Monday or during the day Tuesday, receiving them by the end of the day Monday, would that be then between now and next Thursday? Do you think that you'd have the time to go through some of this with the landlord?
Absolutely. They've already, a lot of these concerns that came up from the initial staff report, and these are expanding upon those concerns. We've already brought them up to the landlord and waiting for some responses. So it's not like we'll be hitting them out of left field tomorrow morning with this stuff. They're already looking into it. So I believe we can get some, by Thursday, certainly, some responses.
They can't be by Thursday, they want it by Monday.
The
Update our
plans.
Drawings, by
Yeah.
Monday. drawings we can get done for sure, just we can get confirmation from the landlord that what we're proposing is
Is,
acceptable.
normally, we have a standard that we have all of our, our plans to us by close of business on Friday, so I'll ask the Plan Commission if they're okay with receiving this portion of the packet by Tuesday.
By Tuesday noon?
Well, he would have the.
Well, I would forward it, I would Monday, if I were to receive it Monday, but at the end of the day, we could have it out, I think, by noon. And we would probably have the memo written in advance, and send the materials out.
I'd say as long as staff gets it Monday.
Okay. I'm seeing nods.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in the list of conditions, did somebody cover the awning over the ordering and?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the, yes, that's listed in the.
Okay, so,
Drive-through, at the drive-through window?
yes.
Andrew, just in case we, for whatever reason, we can't get a hold of the landlord and we miss the date, when's the next one?
September 11th.
Okay, no, we won't miss it.
That's why we're trying.
The difference in the timing is significant between the two meetings because the board meeting that would be available to you would be also pushed back. This,
We'll get it done, yeah.
So can I hear a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
we need a motion to table the signed docket.
Oh, that's right. Motion to table SCBA 1426, appearance approval of wall sign, wall and freestanding signs.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. We will see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a good idea.
Can we just take a 5-minute break?
Thank you.
Well, back to order. Just a quick thing on that, on the last docket, there was a lot of good input. I appreciate that. A lot of good input, so excellent. All did our homework on that one. Number 8, approval of minutes, none. Other business, neighborhood streetscape initiative. Say that 5 times. Still, we talked about this last time, workshop discussion, Mr. Jennings?
Thank you. At this point, what we'd be looking for, given a week after our last discussion, the way we left things was if the commissioners had an opportunity over the course of the last week to look at some potential locations that might fit the criteria for this program. We'd be willing at this point, if you have them now and you want to just list them out for us, or if you want to send them to us for us to do some additional investigation about implementing this program in some specific locations, this would be a good time to do that.
Does anyone have any?
Exactly what are you looking for? Just location?
Yes, that's what we asked last week, to go and look for
I actually have a
locations.
couple.
Okay, good, excellent.
Right smack in front of, right along Dundee Road, right in front of this building, and then a little further west as well. And I think that, but in my mind, when I think of something to put out in front of this building and put out a little further west, I'm thinking something needs to have some color to it, not just simply trees. And I'm sure that our village staff is around here, clipping other things down that shouldn't take too much if we don't make it, if we make it something that is a perennial and something that has limited maintenance. But I think that might be a really nice addition right out front.
Okay.
It's the only one I came up with.
And I think the intersection of Edward and Edward, or Vera and Vera, where there's a empty space in between the two, a lot of high schoolers traverse that area. Be nice to get a sidewalk in there, and if you put some benches in, might be used.
Just west of there, on Vera and Schoenbeck, there's that detention pond, or Detain's Water Detention Pond, that we talked about the last time, if there's room to put some possibly benches on the corner, inside from Schoenbeck, possibly, that would, people are walking around. But now, of course, if we explore the Vera and Vera, I like that option a lot better, too. And then also, the one spot, Valley Stream and 83.
Where?
Valley Stream and
Oh,
83.
Sure.
That
Yeah,
big,
just as you go onto Valley Street.
onto Valley Stream,
yeah.
right, yeah, that spot right along the,
Yeah, that's a perfect
the
little
creek.
spot.
Yeah, that.
Do you know who owns that property, Jim?
Well, it wasn't on our list of places that we own.
We can, in that, there may be some public right-of-way, where the bridge is, where the street is. The parcel itself is owned by one of the adjacent associations. But that's not to say that we do not have some amount of land next to it. That's one that we may have to check exactly what we own and what we don't own. And if it turns out that we don't own a sufficient amount of space, the items that we talked about last week, the possible easement or just giving a improvement to an association might achieve the same goal.
And the same, I think, would hold true for the Vera and Schoenbeck that's probably owned by or maintained by the homeowners association.
Could very well be. But I would assume we have some type of right-of-way over there.
We may have some type of right-of-way. I don't know how far off the sidewalk. And again, there may be a case of if a private entity is responsible for the maintenance of that area, maybe the form of this program in a specific spot might be a gift of an improvement that then the entity
Right.
would have to maintain from that point.
It's a good idea.
You know, and then just something else to think about for a future step. I know we're trying to keep it within village-owned property or right-of-ways, but, you know, there's that property by the library, so it would be the northwest. There's an open space right along the sidewalk there. That would be a real nice I would think, a real nice gathering area.
Where do you mean, Jim?
How-
Right in front of the library?
No, right there,
Oh, yeah.
right there. I'm sure
That's kind of
that's.
similar to what we were talking about with the school districts. Where
Right, exactly.
It may not be a village-owned property, but it is
Right,
a
but
publicly owned.
just something that maybe in the future that we take into consideration.
Taxpayer-owned property.
Right, exactly. Right. Because I see a ton of people walking to the library, walking or biking. You know, I'm trying to think, Andrew just asked about the area closest to the corner of the building. I think there were supposed to be benches there, but I don't recall any. I know there's some benches in front of the library, but to the,
They built that little patio
Yeah.
area,
But
brick.
it's stone.
yeah, but I don't remember any seating area over there, is there?
The only
plan-
seating area is that little reading section
Yeah.
they got that it's made out of.
But something like that might be something to explore.
I think this is part of our exploration, is
Right.
how, is feasibility, and is there something similar in the same area?
Right.
I think, you know,
So we've given you some ideas, and, I mean, most of us live on the west side of town, so if you're to the east side of town and you see an area, please point it out to Andrew and Brooke,
If you're-
that we can explore it.
just if you're traveling around, jot down a note. I think we're, you know, speaking on behalf of the staff, I think that we're open to looking at a variety of ways to implement this program.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any space available near Mark Twain School, the entrance or exit drives for Mark Twain School, if there's enough room to do anything there. I know a lot of people walk around there, too.
Yeah, so, okay, good. It's
The,
what you have here?
the only other item that I had prepared for tonight, I have to actually, I don't think I can get to it from, well, maybe I can actually, give me 1 second. And perhaps one way to do this is, since we have a meeting next week, I can email you this so you can take a look at it, or I can put it in with your packet, and we can do this in greater detail next week. But I just wanted to give the Plan Commission a preview of a public hearing that we're scheduling for September 11th. We have a list of amendments to the zoning code that we've been working on, some of which I think we probably won't be ready for September, but these few things I think we would likely be ready for. There are just a few of them that I wanted to run through very quickly. Again, as I said, I will get them to you. You can look at them. We don't have to go through them in great detail here. The first one was the building material standards. We had been discussing a way of amending the code so that this is clear in terms of expectation of building materials, not necessarily getting into the prescribed calculation as much, getting away from the interpretation of exactly what masonry is. What we've looked at in researching other communities' material standards, combining that with our own requirements in the village here, we came up with what you see on the screen right now, that building materials shall be durable, consistent on each side of the building, complementary with the character of the area. The second one here, I think, is the one that's caused the most confusion in the past, and this is our proposed rewrite of that. A single primary building material comprising at least 50% of each elevation shall be selected from the following. And then the list that we were proposing, based on years of discussions on this topic: finished brick, stone, stucco, cement fiberboard, or glass, with the qualification there that cement fiberboard installation shall require certification of proper installation technique and climate-appropriate materials. We have learned over the course of review of several projects that there are more than one thickness of cement fiberboard, and the installation technique is key to ensuring that it's actually effective and durable. So that's the proposal that we have at this point for consideration. The second part of that is the secondary materials would include wood, decorative metal panels, synthetic siding. There's a list there. Decorative siding would be encouraged. I wanted to just call your attention to this piece here. We have not specifically said much on EIFS in our zoning code. This little addition here to the secondary materials notes that EIFS may be used but shall not be installed less than 3 feet above grade or used as a trim. The next piece, trim materials may include wood, stone, composite wood, pre-finished metal, and cement fiberboard, trying to eliminate some of the trim materials that may not stand up so well over time. Prohibited materials, and this is one that we've tried to expand on the list. The previous list was not as detailed as this. So what we were suggesting here is aluminum siding, sheet metal, corrugated metals, smooth vinyl siding, concrete block, painted concrete block, and other porous synthetic blocks prone to staining. The Plan Commission Board would consider the combination of building materials and architectural interest. And the architectural interest section is the section directly above this that talks about articulation of the facade, cornice details, shadow lines, etc. And then down at the bottom, any material not specifically listed within this section may be presented for consideration during the design review process. Such materials may be permitted at the discretion of the Plan Commission and Board if it's determined that materials are comparable to permitted materials in terms of durability and aesthetic. So that is the first round draft. The companion to this, real quick before you go, there's a companion to this, the MX district. There is we've had a request to address this issue in the code. The code currently has a requirement that the minimum masonry requirement on developments in the mixed-use district shall be determined during concept review based on the location of the project and the desired character of the specific area. We've rephrased that slightly in this draft to read that the proposed primary and secondary materials shall be labeled on the elevations provided with the concept plan submittal so that the Plan Commission and Board can provide direction prior to the preliminary PUD submittal. To take away the apparent conflict of having a firm approval during a non-binding review.
Was this in the PUD side or the MXT side? Because there were two.
This is written into the MX district requirements. Okay. We also have, for the PUD section, we're going through now 3 sections of the PUD procedural requirements to try to eliminate some of the redundant language. As it is right now, we have application requirements and procedural rules sort of intermingled in 3 separate sections. And as we've updated sections over time, they're not consistent with one another anymore. So what we're trying to do is take the application requirements outside take them out of the procedural section so that they refer to one another, but they're not redundant anymore. So that's kind of where we are. If there are any specific things, like I said, I'll put this in your packet. You can take a look at it and, you know, have a copy of it. But if there's anything that you care to share with the group.
Andrew, it really bothers me that we've gone from an 80% brick and stone requirement down to a 50% stucco or fiberboard requirement. And I think we've really taken a great step backwards. You know, as I've said before, I think the precast concrete stuff has the look and feel of stuff, and I'm not sure that was really mentioned at all. But I can't see the 50% mark, you know, at least 50%, because that's what people are going to give us of stucco or fiberboard. You know, I think we're going backwards and we ought to be moving forward.
I agree. I think 50% is way low. I mean, we can always make adjustments, but I think we're never going to get them to give us more, but we could possibly ask for less. I just think that we're asking just the bare minimum, and I'm not crazy about that at all.
So why did you take out why did you take out I?
Well, the number, if you look at the number and how we actually calculate it, 50% of each elevation will be a single primary building material. The other regulation did not, it allowed you to add up two materials.
Yeah, but they had to be brick or stone. In a lot of cases, you could put a stone base with a brick upper course that looked real nice, so.
I think what we were trying to figure out here, and again, this is the first draft of something that the commission's asked for. What we were trying to achieve here is direction for architectural interest and setting a standard of quality building materials. What we have heard numerous times from developers is, well, I can give you a brick building that won't look nice. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is trying to write this in such a way that it's encouraging of architectural interest, still producing quality materials. But the issue that we've run into is the percentage of brick is throwing so many people off that it's difficult to explain how we calculate it. It takes time to calculate it. There's debate about how to calculate it. So what we're trying to figure out is a way to achieve a quality of development and architectural interest, and not have it be tied so strictly to a
I hear you, right? But you're saying that 50% has to be one of those materials. And I'm saying, I don't care if it's a mix of materials, but I want it to be 80% real masonry product. And I don't really consider, while stucco comes close to being a masonry product, I'm not sure. In the fiberboard stuff, I'm not yet convinced that it's a masonry product. And the ephes, you said it shouldn't be used in trim areas, and I thought that was a good place for ephes, above windows in crazy designed, you know, peaks of buildings and stuff. But I guess I'd let Paul...
Some of the differences here, the stucco that we're referring to is real stucco and not ephes, in B. It's specifically separated from ephes for that reason. The ephes itself is the
cement fiberboard look-alike cheapo stuff.
Well, no, it's a stucco look-alike. It's thin, it doesn't do particularly well with moisture, and it's damaged fairly easily at ground level. And the idea of preventing it from being used as a trim, not so much that this trim, in this case, we're meaning true trim, a trim piece, not an accent, but an actual piece of trim. So when you trim out a window with EIFS, what happens is the water gets behind it. So that was really more what we were looking at. So like I said, first draft, if the entire commission would like to see I think what I would suggest is clarify, if you mean brick, say brick. If you would like the buildings to be 75% brick, use the word brick, to get away from a debate over what is masonry, what's not masonry, if that's what is being asked for. I would encourage the commission, though, to look at this in combination with the section directly next to it before next week.
Okay.
We have focused very much on...
I can't hear you.
We focused a lot on the minimum standard, the minimum number, the percentage of masonry. And there's an entire section above here that has been, I wouldn't say ignored, but has been somewhat left behind as we've focused on the brick. There's this section of architectural interest, trying to achieve architecturally interesting buildings through the use of detail, shadows, trim, cornice work, that sort of thing.
Well, could you highlight that then for us?
That's here, right here.
Well, Ed, when you send it to us, highlight it.
Sure.
Different color maybe?
Sure.
Because it's not changing, but you want us to review that in relation to the other sections, so highlight it with a different
Right.
color.
Yeah, the one section I'd highlighted, that's just the color I used to show what's changing.
Right, yeah, right,
Sure.
exactly. So
Yeah, I can point
the
this.
different color that we know it's not changing,
Sure.
but requires our attention.
So are you saying that using these other materials outside of brick, that you can achieve a different architectural view of a building? It's easier to work with, or you can't get the desired effect if you use brick versus some other type of material?
I think what we're trying to discuss, and again, this is not today up for your vote. What we're trying to do is write this in a way that we're clearly conveying what the Planning Commission and the board expect out of a quality building. We're also trying to recognize that there are innovations in building materials all the time and give some leeway so that people can propose a building material and demonstrate that it achieves the objectives of the village. One of the things that we have heard from the development community on a variety of building projects is that brick by itself is not what makes the building attractive. Brick without trim, brick without shadow, brick without any sort of variation in the facade, articulation of the facade, is not necessarily attractive. So what we've heard from them is the use of bays on the buildings, bays, balconies, articulation of the facade, bumping it out, creating shadow, creating other architecturally interesting features, which can be done with other materials, is what they're suggesting is missing from our consideration right now.
And I guess I would say, why can't we have both? Why can't we have both? Make them be creative in what they're giving to us, and stick to our higher standards. And I understand where you're coming from, but it seems to me, I think Commissioner Dorban pointed it out, that all we're ever going to get is 50%. Never going to get any more, and we can never ask for more. Can never ask for more at any other time, because they will just go back to the code and say, well, there's 50%. I made it. So I think we need to look at that a little bit. But in regard to, let's take a look at this, as Commissioner Jennings said. Mr. Jennings, no, I don't want to be a commissioner. As Mr. Jennings said. Right, yeah. Let's look at it as a whole, and we can discuss it in our workshop. Great, thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, other business, Commissioner Powers,
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Vito.
Just one point with the streetscape. I haven't looked into it, but we had the one woman here, and I forget her name, and I apologize to her, who kind of adamant about getting something in her neighborhood. She's been to village board meetings before. She's very active in her community. She's very vocal as well. And if, maybe someone could take a drive over there and see if there's anything that might work for Wolf Run. I know they're feeling under a lot of stress with the TIF district and all that. They were all here one night, pretty concerned. So if there's anything we can do to kind of maybe do some improvement in their neighborhood, I think it's something we might want to look into.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Just one quick one. Andrew, is there anything we can do with that terrazzo and marble place on Northgate? Their paint is peeling off the upper section of their building. It really looks bad.
Sure, we can take a look at it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dorband.
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Zangara.
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Steilen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to let you know, the village board met Monday night with a strategic planning session that I thought was excellent. It was interesting to see our village board being very passionate about making changes to the image of the village and designating some concern areas that they have, and a really good discussion about what they might be able to do about it. And in that line, Andrew sent out, or Brooks sent out a notice today about next week's meeting, I think it was, where the, not the senior center, the assisted living building is coming before us. And one of the things that they talked about at the strategic planning meeting was things like impact fees. That's going to be a business that is probably going to put some additional stress on our facilities here in terms of police, fire, senior services potentially, and maybe there should be some impact fees associated with it. That's something that maybe we should be thinking about looking at when they come before us. Another thing they talked about was trying to procure additional right-of-way along Dundee Road and our other roadways so that the roadways can be expanded at some point in time to add right turn lanes, center left turn lanes, etc. And that's another thing that we should probably look at for this assisted living facility. Can we get some additional frontage or right-of-way frontage from them as part of the process? And more so than that, right, it's one thing for us to ask the petitioners, but by the time it comes to us, plans have already been prepared. They've done a lot of engineering work and design work and spent a lot of money creating plans, and then we're going to ask them to push their property back 15 feet or whatever the distance is, make adjustments. That should really be done on a consistent nature up front. As soon as they contact the village, we should tell them that at some point in time, either the state or us is going to want to take that frontage to use for expanding the other roadway facilities. So the sooner they get informed, probably the easier it is to design around those things rather than cutting a parking lot in half after it's already in and then trying to figure out what we're going to do. If they have some of that knowledge up front, they might be able to design something into it. So I think that's something we should consider, and all of us should be looking for opportunities to provision the future as opposed to just looking at a project for what it is right now. How is it going to fit into the village, right? How can we minimize curb cuts? Can we get cross-access with adjoining properties rather than having one or two curb cuts for every parcel that comes in? So those are the kinds of things that they were discussing, and like I say, they were very passionate about the things that they were trying to do to improve the image of our village, the transportation through our village, etc. So
Good points.
that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Good points. Excellent.
Real quick, I mean, we're going to go through some of this next week, but while it's fresh in my head, yeah, I agree, all good points. We can look at the impact fees. We do, when we have these preliminary meetings with petitioners, we go through what potential impacts they might have. From a village standpoint, that's not usually in the area of fees. We have talked about the additional cost of ambulance service, and to what extent a development like this might have an impact on our fire department for that reason. Haven't touched on the subject of police, the impact on the police relative to the assisted living. Have not touched on the impact of the senior center. We have gone over the ambulance fee question with them. The dedication of the right-of-way in this case, a couple of things related to that. They are planning to share a curb cut with the adjoining property, and you'll see that on their plan. They are planning to dedicate a bike path diagonally behind the property to go from the bridge to the other bridge. They are, so you'll see some of these things, but we do try to work with them on these types of things preliminarily. And you're right, it is easier to do it early rather than after something's built. We'll have to check on the impact fees. We'll speak with the village attorneys about that and try to look into what the options are for that. You had one other thing on this one that I wanted to bring up. Sharing of curb cuts. What was your other question on this one? Oh, the right-of-way in the front. This particular location, I can confirm this. I think that they did actually, we already did acquire the right-of-way on this one. If you look at the street, it narrows right after this property.
Right, yeah.
And the pinch point is by the post office. So we were able to acquire both sides by the church and by this vacant parcel. So it's been, the lanes have been pushed out. We have the 10-foot sidewalk on that side. So we've already pushed out there, and then it comes in here, so.
Excellent.
It should be.
But I think those are the things that
Sure.
we should be conscious of and looking at as projects come before us, so.
Yep.
Sure, I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget, since, to mention.
And the village board did say that, that they're still in their preliminary phases of their strategic plan, and they're going to be working on them more over the coming months. And they said, when we're done, we'll make a presentation to the plan commission. So I said, why don't you just invite us to the meeting, because we'll learn more. But that was their current plan of attack, to make it official by, announcing it to everybody and us.
Sure. Cool. And I have nothing. Madam Attorney, anything?
Nothing.
Nothing? Brooke? No? And you've had enough. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Andrew, Brooke, thank you.